Big Blue Nation, I know right now it's a state of mourning, right? The first game was not what anybody expected it to be. But I just got to call people out. I think we tend to push the panic button a little bit too soon. I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of A Giant Issue. I am Coach Gene Clemons. New York Giants on that side. That's where you get off your New York Giants news and information. Make sure you go over there, check out everything we do to wrap up what was an abysmal week one to get you prepared for what hopes to be a better week two and everything in between right over there at the New York Giants on SI. Then come over here to YouTube. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. We didn't get to 3,000 before the first game. I was a little disappointed. I thought we were going to get that push to get that last like 130 something odd, that we needed to get to 3,000, but we didn't. I'm not going to cry with spilled milk. We're just going to move on. We're going to keep it going. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you know anytime I drop a new giant issue, anytime Paul Latino does one of his big blue breakdowns, you always want to make sure you're tuning in for those. How do I say this without people in the comments just deciding that they are going to try to lambaste me from what, it doesn't even matter. It's called a giant issue for a reason. Everybody told us, all of the experts, all of the pundits, all of the creators, they all told us that this offensive line wasn't as good without Andrew Thomas, that the offensive line would struggle without Andrew Thomas. And then the offensive line struggles without Andrew Thomas. And people go, oh my God, I can't believe this offense is struggling without Andrew Thomas. So hypocritical. People said that this was the most difficult schedule, especially the most difficult start to the season schedule of anybody in the NFL. They talked about how the Giants would be lucky to win one game within the first 8 weeks, in the first 8 weeks of play. They talked about how hard it would be to beat this Washington team, with this Washington team being keyed up and all the additions that they made and them having their quarterback in Jaden Daniels. They said all of these things only to then react as if they were shocked and appalled that the Giants were defeated by the Washington Commanders. I don't understand. How can you say, oh, water is wet, and then when you get soaked, go, I didn't know that the water would be that wet? That doesn't make any sense. To me, this is much to do about nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, the Giants were never going to win all of their games, right? They were never going to go 17-0. Who cares? Who cares about the first game? Who cares about week one once you get to week 17? Only the people who are not in the mix. Need I remind you last year that the Philadelphia Eagles lost to the Atlanta Falcons, right? They lost to the Falcons. We talked about how iffy Kansas City looked all last year. They both played in the Super Bowl. Now, I'm not here to say that the Giants are going to play in the Super Bowl. But I am here to address some of the issues that people seem to have. And I'm not really sure why they have them, because they've known this all along. The first one, as I talked about, the offensive line. Oh, we didn't really run the ball as well as we should have run the ball. Well, no, because this offensive line was never built to be a running offensive line, right? Like, this offensive line was never constructed to be road graders. This offensive line was constructed to pass protect. The offensive line was not built for anything other than pass protection. So when they do stuff well in the run game, it's usually a byproduct of being able to pass the ball well. But again, I digress, because you all knew that. You knew that because Joe Shane said, I don't want my $40 million quarterback handing off to a $15, $20 million running back, right? Like, that's what was said. And so why people are so surprised, right? It's beyond me. The Giants rushed the ball 23 times for 74 yards. Yeah, I mean, the yards per attempt was probably lower than they wanted, but that's to be expected. And where we thought that the Giants had improved with their run defense, we found out they had not. There was questions about the run defense. Remember? Like, hey, they brought in, so they went out and they got Ledbetter, and they got oh gosh, it's gonna kill me now. My brain is not working as well. Oh, Robertson Harris. They got Ledbetter, they got Robertson Harris. They got those guys in free agency. They went out and in the third round, they got Darius Alexander. And yet, they kept 32-year-old Rakeem Nunez-Roches, who I believe had underachieved. Now, Roy Robertson Harris is 32, but they let Ledbetter go. Alexander hasn't really been given the same opportunity. I don't know if that's because he's not playing well or just because they have a lot of hope for these other guys. But they had Elijah Garcia out there, just right? Like, it was meh. It was meh. Meanwhile, you got Bobby Okereke, who had a poor 2024, we'll just say, go out here and get 16 tackles in this game. 16 tackles. He is on pace for well over 200 tackles. Now, do I expect him to keep that pace up? No, but I'm saying that's a lot of tackles. It's a lot of tackles. And I'm here and I'm just kind of like, what about this team that's happened did the fans and the pundits and all of these people not know about? So ultimately, and this is my favorite part, this is why this episode is called Monday Mourning Quarterback, mourn as in to mourn the loss of someone, is because all of the talk after after week one was, need to get rid of Russell Wilson. Oh, we got to bench Russell Wilson. Got to bring Jackson Dart on. Now, this is the most predictable thing that I could ever see happening. I was saying, hey, Russell Wilson can't afford to have a bad game. He did it to himself. And to a certain extent, the coaching staff and front office did it because they didn't let him play out into like real good stats in the like in the preseason. So you've got Russell Wilson, who looked pedestrian in the preseason, who was replaced by Jackson Dart, who looked otherworldly in the preseason. Never mind the fact that Jameis Winston looked fantastic and Tommy DeVito looked fantastic. Nope, don't look at those things. Only look at the fact that Jackson Dart looked really, really good playing against 2s and 3s. Right? Like, so one game in to Russell Wilson, to the Russell Wilson experience, and throw out all the leadership that you guys gave him credit for in the summertime. Throw out all of the goodwill that he's done with the city of New York and the New York Giants fan base since he's been here with the team. Throw out everything that he's done to try to ingratiate himself to this community after week one, after one game. Don't give him a chance to get comfortable. Don't give him a chance to get hot. Don't give him a chance to nope. Just get rid of him right now. See, the microwave society that we're in, especially the way New York Giants fans like to microwave, they want it right now or they don't want it anymore. And my only issue is, ladies and gentlemen, this is who he was when you guys signed him and everybody threw a parade. I was out here saying there should have been a competition. I was out here saying that Jameis Winston should have been given the opportunity to compete. And I think it's an utter joke, for the record. I think it's an utter joke, as I do my once a episode Winston plug, as some of you like to say. I think it's a joke that you keep Jameis Winston on this roster only to have him as the number 3 emergency quarterback who's not even really dressed for the game, not even really active for the game. But wait, there's more. So now after a week, people are ready to put Jackson Dart in. Except this is a really tough schedule. And all of you have said that this is a really tough schedule. Why would you throw Jackson Dart into this mix if you have questions about your offensive line? Why would you throw Jackson Dart into this mix if you have questions about your receiving core? Because now, not only is Darius Slayton not a number 1 wide receiver, now he's not even a number 2 wide receiver. I saw somewhere on X someone say, see, this is the problem. Anytime I talk about Darius Slayton, people go, he's not that bad. But I want a real number 2 wide receiver. What does a real number 2 wide receiver look like? And before you say T. Higgins, right? Before you say, well, Cincinnati has a real number 2 wide receiver, right? But he's a number 1 masquerading as a number 2 wide receiver. Let's keep in mind that the best number 2 wide receiver in the league, T. Higgins, 3 receptions, 33 yards, and a longer 13 versus the Browns. Like, let's not bury the lead here when you all start talking about how bad this receiving core is. Oh, we got to be able to have someone better than Wandale. Okay, give me a number 3 receiver that's really good. Let me guess. You guys want that Isaac Tesla guy to come over from Detroit, where he's like the number 5 wide receiver, but Detroit was getting their head kicked in, so he got some snaps and he caught a fancy pass in the back of the end zone, and now you want him? Wan'Dale Robinson is a guy who can be a back, who can be a slot, who can line up out wide for you, who can run intermediate routes, who can run shallow routes, who you can throw it to in the screen game. He has dynamics. You have to allow the team to let those dynamics unfold. Oh, Jalen Hyatt, why is he here? He's here because they don't want to let him go before he has a chance to prove he can play. That's it. Which, by the way, is really interesting that they feel like they want to do that when they're all but kicking Evan Neal out the door without really giving him an opportunity. If we really dissect it, Evan Neal has played less than 2 seasons of football, and they're ready to throw him out. Evan Neal was not even dressed for the game. I digress because I want to get back to this Russell Wilson thing. So I'm going to put a pin on that Evan Neal thing. Russell Wilson is not a 300-yard-a-game passer. Russell Wilson is not Lamar Jackson with the legs. And Russell Wilson has never been that. The sweet spot for Russell Wilson has always been 225 to 250 yards, 30 to 40 rushing yards. If he can give you that, he's had a good day. A couple touchdowns. He's had a good day. That's been Russell Wilson forever. Russell Wilson is older, and he should be wiser. He should be able to understand the game at a deeper level. He also is older, so he's less athletic. He's more prone to injury. He probably doesn't want to take hits as much as he used to. He's in self-preservation mode. Russell Wilson's biggest job right now is to keep these checks coming. If he can squeeze out or stretch out another few years of these $10 million checks, 12 million, 8 million, 9 million, 7 million, right? If he's able to just continue to rack up the checks at 40, he's 39 now, at 40, 41, 42, because apparently now it doesn't matter that quarterbacks get old. It only matters in every other position except quarterback. That's why people are throwing money at these old quarterbacks who have already been showing diminishing returns, and people still go out there and throw the money to them. I wonder how many people are feeling sick after watching Aaron Rodgers light it up in Pittsburgh, going, "Oh, he could have been our quarterback." Because I know a lot of people were out there going, "Oh my gosh, look at Daniel Jones. I knew it was us." Y'all are really going to fall for that? Y'all think Daniel Jones is going to go over to the Indianapolis Colts and all of a sudden be lights out? If he is, cool. Congratulations. But it's more than likely that he's fool's gold. He's going to do enough to get people to want to pay him more money, and then he's going to go right back to being Daniel Jones, because right now he has no pressure. Nobody expects anything from Daniel Jones, and that's when he's at his best. The moment that there's expectations, that's when Daniel Jones is not very good. When there's no expectations, when nobody expects anything from him, that is when Daniel Jones all of a sudden shines. But that has an expiration date. And it's going to have a quicker expiration date in Indy. But shout out to him on his record-breaking. Have you ever seen a quarterback be as inconsistent as Daniel Jones and yet have so many records? Interesting how that happens. But yeah, so you're going to have to deal with Russell Wilson I think they should release Jameis Winston and let him go somewhere where he can do some good. Because he can't do any good as the third quarterback who isn't even active on game days unless he's the emergency quarterback. Like, to me, that is wild. That says we want Jackson Dart to be a play away from getting in the game. We want Jackson Dart to be a rolled ankle away from getting in the game. And we don't want Jameis Winston to get in the game. But if you don't want Jameis Winston to get in the game, why do you have Jameis Winston? That's just so frustrating. So then it became James Hudson III's fault that, the team didn't play well. Oh my God, Hudson is awful. Hudson is terrible. Blah, 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 blah. Russell Wilson was sacked 2 times. Let me say that again for the people who are unaware. Russell Wilson was sacked twice. Listening to people talk about this Giants offensive line, you would have thought that Russell Wilson was sacked 72 times. You would have thought that this man got sacked so many times. But the truth is, Washington got sacked more. You would have thought that Russell Wilson was getting hurried every single play. That's not true, though. Russell Wilson wasn't getting hurried. Not as much. Here's what it came down to. Russell Wilson didn't make enough plays. He didn't complete passes that he needed to complete. He was off. And you can just be off sometimes. Like, there doesn't have to be anything nefarious to it or terrible about it. Sometimes you're just off. Russell Wilson had 8 carries for 44 yards. That's about right. What we're not used to Russell Wilson doing is going 17 for 37 from the field. We're not used to Russell Wilson attempting 37 passes and only completing 17 of them. That was weird. That was strange. That was something I was not expecting. But Russell Wilson's going to be fine. You can't abort the mission after one game. You look foolish when you do it. That can't ever be what we do in society, is after one game, we just decide, nope, that's it. It's over. Can't do it anymore. Blow it all up. I'm surprised we haven't heard people start saying tank already. Tank for who? Tank for what? Like, that's the interesting part to me. That's the part where I go, you know what the future holds. So ride out the present, see what it could be, and hopefully it gets better. That's it. Hopefully things get better. You know they're going to make adjustments. They're going to get healthier. I just wonder, how long do you keep watching, right? How long do you keep looking and seeing JMS play poorly before you decide to do something else at center and move Evan Neal in at guard? Because I'm telling you what, the thing that's holding this team back, it's not the ability to pass protect. It's not the ability to complete passes. It's the fact that they don't want to lean in on having a quality rushing attack. They don't want to lean in on it. Washington wants to lean in on it, and guess what? They're good. The Giants, they don't want to lean in on it. Guess what? They're inconsistent. Evan Neal's got to get into this lineup. And Greg Van Roten most likely has to go to center. Because it was bad for JMS. And I don't think it gets better. Because this is something that's been plaguing him since he came into the league, and it's not gotten any better. There's been no improvement. Excuse me, I shouldn't say that. There's been no significant improvement. There's been incremental improvement, which is great when you're a 21-year-old center coming into the league or a 22-year-old center coming into the league. Not when you're JMS's age. So I don't know what they're going to do about him. I do know that I need to see Evan Neal, because Evan Neal gives you the ability to open up the holes. This offensive line is going to get better when Andrews come back, right? Andrew Thomas, excuse me. And I have said, if you have to wait an extra 2 weeks to ensure that Andrew Thomas plays 15 games, isn't it worth it? Of course it is. And so that's what they're doing right now. They're just waiting. Some real disappointments. Obviously, the rush defense, disappointment. The realization that for as athletic as these Giants edge rushers are, and they are very athletic, Jaden Daniels is just more athletic. There were a few occasions where Jaden Daniels just ran away from Brian Burns and from Abdul Carter and from Kayvon Thibodeau like they were not even there. He just ran away from them. As if it was like he saw a ghost. He's like, ooh, and it startled him, and he just ran away. That's how he did all of these elite level deep. Watch, it won't be like that versus other teams. They're going to have an even better day versus the Cowboys. That doesn't run like Jaden Daniels does. That doesn't have that in him. Absolutely not. Jaden Daniels is just another breed. He's in the breed of the Lamar Jacksons. He's in the breed of the Justin Fields. Those ones who, when they run, they just take off and you've got no chance. You just hope that you took a good enough angle and you can get them down. That's it. That's it. That's all you can do. So I was disappointed in that. Disappointed in the run game. I was disappointed in Russell Wilson's performance. I was disappointed that Jameis Winston was not active. I was disappointed in the running backs' performances. Where's the BYOB at? Where's the bring your own block? We need those sometimes, right? You need those. This team has so much that they can work on. There's so many things going on, right? But it's back to the drawing board. It's back to or maybe it's not back to the drawing board. It's back to work to be able to execute the things that they put on the drawing board up easier than what they did before. But the road doesn't get easier, right? The road doesn't get easier, but your preparation should, because you should get better as a team. And I think this Giants team will. There's no reason for me to hit the panic button yet. This is kind of going the way I thought it might go. Did I think they would be more competitive with Washington? Yes, because they've always been competitive with Washington. But, right? And so I think that's the way we need to look at it. There's a giant asterisk there, a giant but. There's no reason for us to mourn like the team is dead after 1 week. Like the quarterback should be benched after 1 week. Now is the time to take the positivity, take the optimism, bring it up, hold it next to your cheek, right? Feel its warmth and go, it was just one game. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time I have for today. New York Giants on SI, that's where you get all of your New York Giants news and information. Make sure you go over there and check everything out that we're doing. Also, make sure you check out the Big Blue Breakdown by Paul Dottino. Everything over here at the Giants Issue. at the New York Giants on SI YouTube. Get us to 300, maybe before week 2, right? That'd be great. Until next time, I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue.